This video is on political parties, and I have an image here of a donkey in blue and a red elephant. These two animals have become the symbols of the two political parties that we have here in the United States. And so the donkey and the color blue represent the political party Democrats. And then you have, anytime you hear about red states or them talking about red and or an elephant, they're talking about the Republicans. The other thing that you'll notice is that the donkey is on the left and the elephant is on the right. So in the news, when you hear them talking about the left and the right, or the far left and the far right, those who typically support Democrats tend to lean left, and we'll talk about that later when we look at the political spectrum. Those who typically are Republicans are said to lean to the right, and like I said, we'll go over that and make that clear. Political party functions. There are several functions that political parties play. The most important one, and I made that picture the biggest, is to nominate candidates. And so the Republicans try to pick people, and when I say nominate, that's what I mean. Pick people that they can put on the ballot that they think can beat the Democrats, and the Democrats do the exact same thing. They pick people who they think can beat the Republicans. So the number one job of a political party is to nominate or to pick candidates who they think can beat the other side. In the bottom right-hand corner down here, what I'm showing here is that's the floor of the House of Representatives. Remember, we have a bicameral legislature. So we have two houses. This is the inside of one of the rooms in the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and this houses the House of Representatives. And I'm showing this picture, and I'm showing the center aisle for a particular purpose. On the right side are where all your Republicans sit. On the left side is where all your Democrats sit. So looking from behind, it makes sense with the right and the left. If you're standing at the front looking out this way, it's the opposite. But from this view right here, those people that are sitting on the right side of the aisle are Republicans. Those sitting on the left side are Democrats. So one of the things that they do is they govern. And so when we go in for elections, if we know what the Republicans stand for, the Democrats stand for, and what they're going to vote on, we really don't need to know, and I hate to say that, but it's not necessary that you look at every single candidate who's running for office and every single thing that they vote for, because the Republicans tend to vote with Republicans, Democrats tend to vote for Democrats. So once you know, and we'll go through this, how they stand on all the issues in general, not 100%, but for the most part, you can always count on the Republicans voting one way on an issue and the Democrats on another issue. So they govern. They're the ones that create the laws, and we vote them in depending on how we want them to vote on a particular issue. Activate, support, inform. They go around and campaign. That's the bottom left hand. We're going to put signs in people's yards. We're going to hopefully get enough people out to vote for your side. Up in the right-hand corner, I have the watchdog function. And the watchdog function is done by the party that is out of power. So when the Republicans are in power, the Democrats are always on TV trying to point out the flaws, trying to point out the things that they're doing wrong. And when the Democrats are in office, the Republicans do the same thing. It's the job of the other party to make sure and watch out and to protect our liberties. We want to make sure that the government is doing the things that they are supposed to do. Once again, we have this idea of rule of law. No one is above the law, so we need to make sure that someone is watching out. And so the party that is out of power, and that is the party not held by the president. So the party in power is the president. So if you have a Republican president, that's the party in power. If you have a Democrat who's a president, then that party is in power. The first two political parties were the Democratic Republicans and the Federalists. So we're going to go all the way back to the Constitutional Convention and the ratification of the Constitution, where we had those two sides emerging, where you had those who were in support of a stronger central government. They realized that there were tremendous weaknesses under the Articles of Confederation and that we need a stronger central government. Those are your Federalists. Alexander Hamilton kind of led that move as a Federalist, pretty much designing a lot of the federal system that we have, that we even use today. And then you had those, remember, the anti-federalists who were against this new government. They don't really use anti-federalists as their party name. They use Democratic Republicans, and they are led by Thomas Jefferson. So Thomas Jefferson, once again, the anti-federalists want this power to remain in the hands of the state. George Washington is the only president who was elected that was not affiliated with the party. He spoke out against parties. He spoke out against factions and competing and fighting against each other. And in his first term as president, he tried to bring the parties together by putting Thomas Jefferson in his cabinet and Alexander Hamilton in his cabinet. So Hamilton was Secretary of Treasury, and then Thomas Jefferson is Secretary of State. And remember that state are countries, and so he is the one who is responsible for all of the foreign policy and dealing with other states, and we're talking about sovereign states. So George Washington and most of the Founding Fathers thought that having parties was a bad idea because of the fighting, but we naturally see people polarized and going to one side or the other. And Hamilton thinks we need a stronger central government. Thomas Jefferson thinks that we need to have the states maintain as much power as possible. And what we see today in our political parties, the fight is still the same. The fight was during ratification, where should the power lie, with the states or the national government? Throughout our history, that has been the same fight. So you can look at the individual issues, but ultimately the struggle is, where should the power lie? Who should solve our problems? Should it be left up to this large national government, or should we allow the states to take care of their own people and just rely on the national government for a few things?